All right, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans, sponsored by Lionbolt Media. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our field, essentially gathering insight, inspiration. It really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Now, our very special guest and featured titan for today's episode, all the way from Jersey City, New Jersey, none other than Diana Sutherlin. Now, Diana, thank you so much for taking the time. It's an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. And it's an honor to be here.
Oh, I love it. I can't wait to dive into the series of questions. Everybody out there to get to know you as a person, a professional, and the whole story. So Diana, if you're ready to rock, let's just dive into the series of questions.
Sure.
All right. So first one being, just kind of the intro is telling everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what got you into the biz, and where you are to today.
Great. So I actually ran another company for a long time, for 20 years, before I did real estate.
Wow.
My family were big real estate investors my whole life. My mother was in design. I was kind of involved in that world or around it when I was young. But then I ran a company for 20 years and I did training for Fortune 500 companies. I did sales training.
Wow.
So in doing the sales training, I was constantly teaching all types of things like reading body languages, assessing different communication personality types, communication skills, overcoming objections, a lot of things that we deal with in real estate, but it hadn't really occurred to me to do real estate at that time.
Huh.
But I was buying and renovating houses and condos just for myself because I love doing it. I also went, studied interior design, and I was going to be a designer. And while doing all of this, I thought, you know what? I think I'll just get my real estate license and do it part-time. I think I'll do it part-time while I'm running this big company.
Wow.
So I started, trying to do it part-time. And then within my first year, I became the top realtor in my office and in Northern New Jersey for the company I was working for.
Wow.
So I thought, and I was trying to straddle with one foot in both worlds. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. So I realized that kind of all the skills were kind of coming together to be sort of the perfect storm for this business.
Wow.
Both the dealing with people, all the things that I had been teaching people for so long about sales training, and all the design, all the aesthetics. I have a passion for architecture and design. So it just was the right fit.
Sure.
So, and I love dealing with people. So I got to constantly do that. I'm also very much a workaholic. So the kind of thing when somebody says to me, the more you work, the more successful you are, it was like all I needed to hear. So
wow.
It was pretty crazy. I was just, I just was right out of the gate, working like crazy. And I loved it. It was the perfect fit.
I love that background into it, Diana, because as you're mentioning it, we're talking about having your involvement at an early age. There's so many different segments of real estate and just correlations between design and getting involved in sales. That is massive. And there's so many people that are tuning into this to say, okay, well, it's huge for communication and integration and really understanding personalities because this is a people business. So what better transition with all of your knowledge and all your background, 20 years into that. I'm sure you've learned a few things in that time, Diana, to say the least. But what was the thought process when you were really straddling that line and you said, okay, now's the time for real estate? What was going through your mind there? And what was that like? Let's kind of take us back to there and then moving forward, I guess.
I think I got so caught up in it because every career I've been in, I've dealt with people, and I
Mhm.
love working with people. And I think I was able to practically put to use the things that I had been teaching, the
Mm.
things that I've been, I was like, oh wow, this is in a practical setting how this works. And the thing is, I loved it. I
Mm.
just found that real estate sort of took me over. It wasn't
Oh,
like, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to do this or do I still want to do this? It wasn't like that. It was just sort of, it just sucked me in
wow.
until I didn't have a moment to think about anything else I had done before.
Wow.
And I loved watching it all in action. I teach, I have a team,
Okay.
and I very much, love to teach my team about communication skills. When you go in, try to listening skills. So many people don't listen. They want to talk so much so they can make sure that a client understands that they have a knowledge of this market. They want to prove how knowledgeable they are, but they're not listening. They're not asking the right questions. Sometimes they're afraid of objections instead of really wanting to hear those objections. So you know how to answer them, you know how to speak to them. And the other thing I love that's always been part of it for me is really assessing the personality type of who I'm working with.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll have a couple, and one of them is, and very often this happens, one of them is a numbers driven person.
Mhm.
One of them is a very much a spreadsheet person. And then the spouse will be the emotional buyer.
Hmm.
Like, oh my God, I could just picture us sitting here for dinner. Look at this wonderful dining room and look at this and look at the view and so you have to really pivot between the two. You
Mm.
have to know how to speak to this particular personality style and then speak to this one. But you can't do that unless you're seriously paying attention,
Mm.
and you watch how they react. You see what's speaking to them, and it it's a way to get their confidence, and
Sure.
so often, again, you deal with couples and they could be the polar opposite.
Mm.
Or you have couples where one is absolutely mind is way out in the suburbs and the other one wants a totally urban market. And so you have to be all these things to all these different people, and and I love that. It
Sure.
keeps it exciting and interesting. And if you really care about really making those clients happy rather than, you know, well, I've got to sell this many in a certain month. And if you really are there for the right reasons,
Mm.
it's exciting and it's always changing. And, so I think it sort of sucked me in, it was the right fit for me.
Yeah.
And look, we don't always love exactly the properties that our clients love, so we have to fake it a little bit.
Fair
But
enough. Fair enough.
but the thing is, I've also worked my whole career
Mhm.
with developers. I've worked with a lot of developers on
Wow.
mid-rise buildings, high-rise luxury buildings. And that's another part of the business that I'm very, very passionate about, and so I do tons of residential real estate, but
Mhm.
I do work with a lot of developers as well. So
I
it gives me a chance to get excited about the architecture and the design and all of that.
Well, Diana, as you're mentioning that, and again, there's so many beautiful takeaways. We haven't even gotten to the second part where everybody's tuning in. Just so you're dropping so much knowledge, and again, your experience in communication and understanding the situation and being extremely self-aware is crucially important. I mean, this is a people business, but it's a sales business, it kind of bothers me a little bit when people look at that as a negative connotation. I mean, sales is a wonderful career path, and looking at it from the standpoint, you're just trying to identify what people's needs are and helping them, achieve their goals. And there's nothing bad against it. But to that point, you're diving very deep into that, which I love. And I know the audience is appreciating it. We're just scratching the surface here, everybody. So you're welcome. But, Diana's on here for a reason. But I want to talk about, I guess, the team real fast and why you decided to start a team, because there's so many different ways to get involved in real estate: individual, producer, broker, owner, team lead, all the different aspects of what's going on there. But I do want to talk about development as well and high rises, because your knowledge is through the roof when it comes to that. So, but let's talk about the team real quick. Why, when you got into real estate through your career path, why did you start a team? And kind of what was your thought process during that time?
So I'm one of those people, I love to do it all myself. I can have 18, plates spinning in the air at a time.
I love it.
Which isn't always good, I'm not saying that's like a quality that I love about myself, but it's not always an asset. I got a little overwhelmed. I had so much business coming my way.
Wow.
And I needed to learn to delegate. And that's in the beginning. Now I love to delegate, but for a long time, it was really hard. Wow. It was very hard for me to let go of control. It was very hard. First of all, I absolutely needed an admin, a transaction manager. I never wanted to touch contracts, even setting appointments. Even in my old business, I never really, they used to joke, and this goes back a million years, that I didn't even know how to use a fax machine.
Oh, come on.
Because I was like, do this, get it off my desk, whatever was not important.
I love that.
I knew what I did well, and I let go of the things that I did not do well.
Brilliant.
So, and I love working with buyers, but I knew that I could not exponentially grow without a team, without other agents working with me, and being able to pass them along a lot of buyers. I don't, and the thing is, I love still being a little bit involved, helping coach them, watching them grow, watching them get better at it. I love that teaching part of it. And, then it comes back to me tenfold, so I couldn't have kept growing without that, and it only works if you care about them growing along with you. So that's been super important.
I love that, Diana. And that shows your heart and your character and your work ethic, identifying obviously strengths and weaknesses internally, bringing on the right people to surround yourself to continually help each other grow as a team and see everybody rise. That high tide raises all ships scenario. And again, earlier on, as you had mentioned, loving to share knowledge and teach and see them grow. That's a beautiful thing. Fostering that relationship into a team or anything for that matter is not commonplace. I wish it was. But unfortunately, it's just not something that you see every day. So I'm glad that you're representing, again, the industry to the highest of standards, in my mind, by doing it that way, for sure. It's just a beautiful thing.
It's exciting to help them understand what they're good at. Sometimes they don't have the experience, maybe, to know. They haven't been in the workforce long enough or in the professional world to know, hey, you're really great at this. You help them discover those things about themselves and what their strengths are. And that's exciting to me. Whenever we take on a new team member, we do a personality assessment. We understand, what are their strengths? What do they maybe need a little more work on? What is their communication style? What is going to be the best way to communicate with them and to motivate them? And I love that part of it, again, but it's all that people-oriented stuff that, that I love.
I think it's great, but internally to your team, externally to your clients, and everybody ended up being a part of the family. I think it's important just to know who you're talking to and how to. But I do want to go into what I think is a fascinating part of your knowledge bases, among so many other things, is talking about developers and projects and high rises. what got you excited about that world? And let's talk about that a little bit, because it's just so interesting.
So I lived in Manhattan for years and I moved out to Jersey City. I lived a little bit in Hoboken, but I have been in downtown Jersey City for a long time and I watch it evolve.
Mhm.
Now, the entire skyline, there's high rises everywhere.
Wow.
And I started, interestingly, I kind of fell into it
Mhm.
working with developers my very first year in the business, and it
Wow.
never stopped. I mean, it's just been continual. And I've worked on high rises. I've been director of sales in large buildings,
Wow.
directors of leasing in very large buildings. And
Mhm.
it's, I love watching, I'm, you know, I don't, there are a lot of things in my background that I
Mhm.
bring to the table in
Sure.
that world. I've helped them pick finishes for certain buildings.
Mm.
There's all kinds of things like that. But I love overcoming, I love teaching my team,
Mhm.
it might be an on-site team, how
Yeah.
to overcome objections, how to
Wow.
be creative, how to think out of the box.
Mm.
I love to come up with ideas for developers, how to think out of the box.
Mhm.
I worked with a number of them after the market crash, which was,
Wow.
boy, that
Yeah.
was trial by fire, and learned so much. And you kind of, after, and I was working with a number of developers at that
Mhm.
time because they were panicking.
Sure.
And the fact is, you learn so much from that. It's almost like I don't think anything's ever going to be like that again, you know?
Wow.
So, but there's something really exciting. The other thing I wanted to point out is
Mhm.
I live and sell real estate
Mm.
in a city which is in downtown Jersey City that's
Mhm.
on the waterfront. So for those
Wow.
who don't know, we're right across from Manhattan.
Mhm.
So we're right on the other side of the Hudson River. So in Hoboken, I sell a lot in downtown Jersey City,
Mm.
Hoboken, and up the Gold Coast, which is
Okay.
the waterfront of New Jersey facing Manhattan.
Beautiful.
So you get views in some of these places that are incomparable,
Mm.
that are some of the best in the world. And you're looking at New York.
Yeah.
And in some of the spots, like in downtown Jersey City, Exchange Place, it's a 5-minute ferry ride to Wall Street. It's a
Wow.
3-minute path ride to Wall Street. So
Mm.
it's like you couldn't be more connected, and yet you have magnificent views, incredible, amenities and so forth, highly amenitized buildings. But what's so unique about that area, and what I get I'm doing some off-market land deals right now with
Beautiful.
developers
Yeah.
selling the projects and so forth. And what I love to talk about is there are thousands, it
Mm.
probably is close to 10,000 high-rise, very high priced rentals,
Hmm.
all brand new, that have gone up all over Jersey City.
Wow.
The rents are skyrocketing.
Hmm.
They lease these buildings up so fast the minute they open. And what we're getting now, particularly since COVID, we had this
Mhm.
before, but we're getting it even more now,
Sure.
is it's almost all people coming from Manhattan, Brooklyn, Long Island City. They're coming from California. They're coming from the suburbs, empty nesters,
Mm.
and they're filling up these buildings. They're trying out, do we like it? Do we want to stay? What do we think? We'll try renting first.
Hmm.
And those buildings are now kind of feeders into the brownstones and the condos
Huh.
in Jersey City and Hoboken. It's kind of an exciting time in that way,
Yeah.
because I think it's building a basis
Mm.
for huge growth
Mm.
here. So I love being part of that. I
Yeah.
love running the stats and doing the
Mm.
data dumps and all of that. And kind of growing with the developers, if that makes sense.
It does. And Diana, what's really exciting too, to your point, is all of the migration and growth that's happening in Jersey City and Hoboken, and to really see that entry sort of portal into the brownstones and the condos, and how the market is shifting and adjusting into what we've been going through with COVID. I mean, this is live, so we're December 21st, 2021 here, and when we're talking about all of the ebbs and flows and adjustments, I mean, we were talking a little bit in the green room before we were going live, and to me, it's just fascinating. And what a beautiful opportunity for people to really truly see that skyline. So as you described it, it just seems beautiful.
They can't believe it. They come over and they walk into, I have a penthouse right now that is absolutely stunning, and it's right on the waterfront. And literally, it's on the 46th floor. You literally look at, you see the George Washington Bridge, the entire panoramic view of Manhattan, all the way to the Statue of Liberty. Wow. I think there are very few places anywhere that you have that expansive a view. And it's mind-boggling. And the building is a curtain wall of glass.
Okay.
So it's not just like floor to ceiling windows, it's the whole building is glass. So they come out of New York and they're like, oh my God, we can't even imagine getting a view like this over there. Right. And twice as much space as they would for the same price. So it's kind of, it's exciting. And I used to live in New York. I never thought I would leave New York,
Sure.
But I love that. And I love seeing the excitement and having people explore. And we have fantastic restaurants, a lot of restaurant chefs and restaurant owners have come out from Manhattan and Brooklyn, all over the place. So I love being part of that, the entire city changing like that. I'm an urban person. I've never lived in suburbia.
Sure.
And, so I love seeing all that change, and it's changed so quickly. It's amazing.
I love it. And again, I can see your passion and just the energy that comes out of you, Diana. It's inspiring. And obviously the people that love and respect and work with you on a daily basis. And, they get that, and the team and the community that you serve. I mean, it's just growing and expanding because of that mentality, which I think is beautiful. We really, going into this next portion, you once again, you've dropped so much incredible information. Again, just markets and changes and evolution and sales and just so much just by itself. But I gotta ask you, because everybody that tunes in, for the audience, they want to learn from the best and brightest. They want to understand how the Titans have really grown to where they're at and really seen that success, and to whatever level that may be. So Diana, if you could look back at your career thus far and identify or pick or choose one or two things that you implemented that you really saw growth, you saw change in that for your business, what would that be? What advice would you give anybody watching or listening now?
I think, if you mine your database enough and you continually keep the business flowing. I am a firm believer in teams. I truly believe, as long as they are very, very much, I was afraid in the beginning, that I have so many clients that I would introduce them to a team member and they'd come running back to me. They're like, but we want Diana. She's like the superstar.
I get that. I get that.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But the thing is, over time, we've learned how to make the transition so well. Now, there's certain clients I will always work with myself. Sure. Yeah. And certainly if it's a referral, and if I'm working with someone, and I'm very good at kind of knowing who fits who, and we have had such success from that, and it's helped. You're just multiplying what you can do. You're just it's growing exponentially that way. So I've never wanted to be. I mean, we do have some mega teams in my area that are gigantic. That's not so much me. I like to be very hands-on and very involved. Yeah. But it definitely requires making sure you have enough business to be feeding them. and for them to realize they've got to be, but you give them the tools, and the skills. And I would say that's probably been one of the things that has been the most essential for my business. And to stay very involved. Sometimes when they're negotiating a deal and something's really tricky, I'll actually be the one there writing like a really good email, I must say, and answering some of their objections and their whatever, and then they send it as if it's them. So sometimes I do that, but they love it, and it's constantly teaching them, and constantly learning. I'm a sponge, and I think anybody who's good at what they do out there, it's an industry that's changing constantly. And if you're not staying on top of it and learning from other top producers, I'm a firm believer in this. I've never wanted to be the smartest person in the room. I've always been teach me, and I absolutely know what I don't know, and I want to learn, but it changes so much that even when you think you got it down, it's always something new. And the demographic of our clients are changing. And if you're not changing with them and learning about what drives them and what motivates them and what frightens them and what makes them excited, you have to constantly stay on top of that.
I mean, Diana, that is such an incredible piece of advice all the way through, from the team aspect of surrounding yourself with great people, to looking at it from understanding the markets adjusting, the consumers adjusting. And that last piece was so incredibly strong. It comes back, the continual message that I'm getting from you is just being a continual learner, always growing, always being a sponge, surround yourself with great people, but then really understanding what makes people tick, how they think. I have a feeling that you put yourself in people's shoes all day long. Bam, bam, bam. And that's something that unfortunately not enough people do. It's very, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Look, it's not about us. It's about the people that you're working with,
Can I tell a very quick anecdote?
Any anecdote, no time frame, anything.
This is something I have remembered my whole life, and this was decades ago. So even before I had my company and I did the training, I was an actress a million years ago.
Get out of here. Cool.
And and I learned an acting technique that forced you to focus on the other person. Absolutely forced you to focus and listen and mimic and mirror. And what it did was it took you out of that self-conscious thing of standing outside yourself and watching your own performance and really, mining what was there in front of you and reacting to it. And there was a book that was put out called Audition. And it was the best book on auditioning that had ever come out at the time, and probably since. And it was by this author, Michael Shurtleff. Here, I'm putting in a plug for it all.
Yes.
This is great. The thing is, he had in that book something I have never forgotten. And he talked about this. He talked about how actors are so, they're so focused on impressing that they're not even paying attention to the person they're sitting in front of. And he said, you wouldn't believe, he said, how often actors will come in and audition in front of me, and they're so self-focused. And he gave this one anecdote in the book where he was at the Ansonia Hotel in New York, and he had auditioned like 300 and something actors that day for a part. And at the end of the day, he left, the studio space, and he was walking across Broadway. And he said, here comes this actor who he had auditioned hours before, earlier that day, walking towards him. And he waved at the guy. And the actor didn't even recognize him. And he said, this is the point. I saw over 300 people that day, and I recognized him, and he didn't recognize me. And I've never forgotten that. And I thought, you know what? I think so many people, and it's one of the things that I teach, I tell that anecdote to my team all the time. I take on new team members and I'm like, you know what, guys, you've got to walk out of there. Yes, it's important to impart your knowledge and how well you know the market and blah, blah, blah. But what's more than important than anything is to know that person when you walk out. You know, what is, you know, you need to find out 10 things about them and what's motivating them. And so many people I know just don't do that. And it's amazing what they miss, you know? So, I don't know what got me off on that, but I always, I think it's important, you know, listening. It's listening, you know.
But Diana, I thank you so much for sharing that. That is such a beautiful story to tell. And I know that that's going to ring into everybody who's tuning in and listening now, myself included. That's something that I'll never forget. It's unfortunately, so many people are on such a fast track, and we're so forced and rushed all the time. And that we're not taking the time to just be, to sit and have a conversation, to really get to know someone, to dive deep into their life and their dreams. And, you know, it's always just, what do you need? What's going on? How can I help? Move on.
I know. And everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be heard and appreciated and, you know, and really listened to, you know, and, you know, and how can you possibly help them if you don't? You know, if you don't know what motivates them, how can you possibly help them? And you know what? I think being authentic in that way is something that people see, they feel it, you know, and it resonates with them, you know, whether they know it or not, it does, you know.
I would agree. And you know, I guess shameless plug, I've heard this time and time again, when I'm sitting with somebody, I'm with them. And, you know, that I make sure that they feel it.
Right.
And no matter what's going on in my life, it's done. It's stopped as best of my ability. And I'm with that person at that time. Nothing else is happening. And when it's done, then I move on with life. And I've heard people say that, and it's a Maya Angelou quote. And I think hopefully I don't butcher it, but people don't care. Gosh, how does it go? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So it's you got to let people, you know, and tying into our conversation, it's important that people know that you care. And you know, you could be the smartest person in the world in the room. I mean, but if they don't feel like they're being heard, if they feel like they're just, you know, speaking in circles, that's not going to make someone, you know, really connect. And that's a big portion into it. You know, looking at it from the standpoint is people, this is another quote, and I forgot who this was, but people aren't necessarily going to remember what you said, but they're going to remember how you made them feel.
Yes, absolutely.
So tying further in again to what we're talking about, people forget.
And one thing about that, and in being really, you know, caring and listening and really caring for the client is, I know so many agents, we have some things and some new developments right now where they're putting out outrageously high co-broke fees. I know so many agents that are pushing properties that are not the most appropriate for their client because the fee is so high. And I have told my team multiple times, never, ever, ever. I don't care if it's the lowest commission out there. If it's the right place for them, it's going to come back to you tenfold. And I swear I have had, I mean, so much of my, you know, career has been referral based and repeat clients, and they come back after years. They know it. I mean, they may not know it in that moment, but they will know it somewhere down the line if you're just pushing them to something because of the dollars you're going to make off of it. And if that's the motivation in your career, either you're never going to be long-term in this career or you're not going to be happy doing it because it's not fulfilling, you know? And what is fulfilling is doing the right thing. And I think sometimes we forget as realtors that sometimes we're at that crossroad where it's a little tempting. It's like, ooh, I could make 5% over here, or I could make 2 over here, but I happen to know this is a much better fit on this side,
Yep.
And, look, we're all human,
Sure.
but you've got to follow, if you follow the right path, even if they don't know it in that moment, they will eventually. And it always comes back to you. I truly believe that.
And Diana, you're living proof of, taking that to the highest of standards and really caring about the people that you're surrounded by. And that means a lot. And again, to any real estate professional that's tuning into this, once again, you're welcome, for hearing another perspective and seeing a true professional every day, sleeping and breathing what you do, and caring to the where that hopefully everybody takes bits and pieces out of this and says, you know what, Diana's right. And, there are times where we're human and we can look at things maybe more selfless. And look, we're all here to make money and support our families and our goals and our lives and our futures, but you got to have it in the right priority check. And this is not to step on a soapbox or make anybody feel bad. It's more of just a reminder. It's like, look, this is how we should all be looking at it. And I love that, Diana. It's I feel like I could hang out with you all day. I can see why your clients love you and the repeat and referral business is there. Is because the genuine nature is there. The warmth is there. The care is there. The connectivity is there. And I just appreciate these conversations. I love them. These are my favorite. I just can't thank you enough for taking the time and sharing your wisdom and your story. I really appreciate it, Diana.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking about this. I'm very passionate about it. And I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, I just love it. And you're amongst so many incredible people. Onto that, I do want to, if anybody is really, really connecting with Diana and what she's saying and, really wants to learn more and go, Diana, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you? And I if you wouldn't mind saying it so that we can have it in the show notes, that'd be really great. So is it a website, social media platform? What's the best way?
Website is fine. We just launched our brand new website, sutherlingroup.com.
Love it.
And the spelling of my name's a little unusual. It's Sutherlin.
Perfect.
So sutherlingroup.com, is, certainly, and take a look at my website. I think it came out really nicely.
Yes, it is beautiful. And I saw the skyline that you had mentioned. There's an incredible video reel at the very top of it.
Oh,
beautiful.
That's actually from that penthouse. It's just stunning. I mean, it
gorgeous.
Just doesn't get any better than that. Yeah.
No doubt. But I would encourage everybody, please follow the group, really get involved with Diana and what they're doing, and check out the website as well. And I'll have it in the show notes as always in the comments below. But Diana, thank you again. I do have to, you are dubbed an official real estate titan. So that is a badge of honor that you can wear for life. No one can ever take that away from you. I always say there's no trophies or plaques, but it's in your heart. It's there.
Thank you so much.
For sure. Diana, you're the best. And everybody, thank you as always for your time and attention, your love and support. If you like here with Real Estate Titans, don't forget to like and subscribe. I do have to give our sponsor a quick shout out, Lion Bolt Media. If you are in real estate and you're looking to grow and scale your digital business, please visit lionboltmedia.com. They got a free mini course on how to grow and scale for prospecting and all the way through lead generation, conversion, saturation. That's at lionboltmedia.com. So we are live here on Real Estate Titans every Tuesday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. We'll catch everybody in the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care. Thanks, Diana.
Bye.
Thank you.